Hello and welcome to the Rangers Review with me, Jonny McFarlane. Today I'm joined as ever by Joshua Barrie. Given that Derek is still in the Faroe Islands, well, I think he's still in the Faroe Islands. I've not seen any tweets to suggest otherwise, Josh. You seem to be having a whale of a time over there.
Absolutely. He sent a very nice photo of a football pitch by the sea.
It did look nice, didn't it? He loves to go to his football stadiums, does Derek, so hopefully he's having a good time and comes back refreshed and full of beans next week. Because I shall be off and enjoying my holidays.
Not with any football stadiums, well, hopefully for you.
I'll still be watching the football, don't you worry about that. So let's talk about the weekend's action and Rangers against Hearts. There's still a bit of a dearth of Rangers news, but that's going to change today given the fact there's a press conference going on pretty much as we speak. So let's go straight into this match against the Jambos, Joshua. Let's not beat around the bush. This is probably the biggest test Rangers have faced so far this season. Certainly, if you're looking at the table, I know people will say perhaps Celtic, but fundamentally, Hearts beat Celtic. They're unbeaten in 8 games, 0 losses. They conceded less goals than Rangers. They're the stingiest defence in the league. This is a tough one, isn't it? Let's not beat around the bush here.
Yeah, it'll be a tough one. And I think the difference between the Hibs games and the Hearts game is that Rangers have tended to have Hibs' number. I don't think Jarvis lost them at all. Whereas Hearts, as you remember, pre-COVID, really did have Rangers' number, and they were a really difficult opponent. They've had their most success playing a 3-4-3, with Beningame and Devlin in the middle, who are both really good midfielders that can allow you to play 3 forwards, because I think they do so much work and are such productive partnership in the middle of the pitch. And from the Hearts supporters that I've spoken to, I think Joe Savage, their head of recruitment, has made a really big impact, bringing in the likes of Ben Woodsburn, Barrie Mackay, and more, and those 2 midfielders that I mentioned. So they've gotten a real differing threats. They've got the big striker whose name escapes me. I think it's Nanguile, as well as Boyce. Then they also have the option to play Woodsburn and Mackay almost as 10s amongst Gary Mackay-Stevens. So they'll be a really tough opponent. And I think you're right. The biggest threat for Rangers is that they're a good defence, Hearts, but they also can retain, if they play the 3-4-3, players high up the pitch. For all of Barrie Mackay's kind of, I guess, his difficult period since he left Rangers, anyone at Ibrox will know that on his days is so much quality. So it will be a real challenge, and I think this is one, Jonny, where you need to see a fast start, because I think if supporters don't see a fast start within that first half an hour at Ibrox tomorrow, justifiably they'll be a little bit tetchy, and Rangers need to not beat themselves before they go and win the game, if you know what I mean. They need to really assert themselves and turn this into what should be a home win on paper, but as we know with Rangers this season, it's not quite been as straightforward at times.
That's Ewan coming in with a question there, Joshua. What is your starting 11 for this weekend? I'll let you go first.
Oh, good of you, because I'm still deliberating over mine. I would think McGregor will start in goals. It's a confusing one, the goalkeeping situation, because it's hard to determine how much of the rotation is intentional and how much of it is kind of protecting little niggles for Alan McGregor that's probably kept quiet. The right back one's difficult because Nathan Patterson ended the last international break so strongly, and as James Tavernier, apart from the Livingston game, he really hasn't had a fantastic start to the season. But I think it would be too big of a statement for Gerrard to not play Tav. So I'd envision that he plays. I would maybe still play Patterson, just because I think, especially when Rangers look a little bit stale, they don't have many people. I'm presuming Rankett's not back. They don't have many people that can commit a man with pace and upset an opposition structure. I don't think Tav does that as much anymore. And I get, especially against 3 centre backs, I'd rather go for an approach like Patterson, who, as we've seen in the international break, has excellent delivery now as well, but can commit a man. But equally, that's based off the last two months. Tavernier for the last 4 years and beyond has been excellent. So I'm happy with either. Goldson and Balogun, it looks like, because obviously we'll find it today, but it looks like Balogun's going to be ready, which is excellent. And then Barisic for me. I like Barrie, and I think he's done really well at points this season. But for me, Barisic is the better player in possession and a better one-on-one defender. And the quicker that we get Barisic back to the player that we know he can be, the better. And that might not happen if he's continually phased in and out. Midfield three is got to be Lundstrom for me. He's fresh, having not played any internationals, and has been so good as a six in the recent 2 games. Then I'm probably Kamara and Aribo. It gives you the nice flexibility in midfield. It's been the favoured approach from Steven Gerrard this season. And the front three, I guess it depends on who's available. You know, Kemar Roof played just 2 days ago in Jamaica. So or Honduras, sorry. I don't know if Ryan Kent is back. Again, we'll find out today. For me, Jonny, in that front three, you need to have one player that can stretch the pitch. I think we've looked best this season when our front three gives us the ability to go round, through, or behind. I think if you play like a Roof, Morelos, Hadji, that doesn't quite give you that. That's probably something you move towards in the second half, like in Hibs, against Hibs when the game still allowed you to do that. So even whether it be Sakala, Wright, or Kent, I'd have one of them in there. Obviously, Morelos, who will be nice and fresh, and then Yanis Hadji for me as well. I think he always speeds up attacks with his passing, and he's maturing into an excellent player. And for me, increasingly now, Hadji has to be on the team sheet because of what he gives in possession. So that would be mine. I'll hand the mic to you, Jonny. Where do you differ from me?
No, I don't differ from you, Joshua. That's exactly the same. I would go with Sakala. I think he needs a run of games. So I totally agree with you about pace. Rangers always need to have that option in there. Yeah. And for me, that's the choice that I would make. Scott Wright, I think, has had a bit of an up and down season. I think we all know that he's very talented. He's got a terrific skill set there, but it's about channeling that and making sure that he becomes the player that he can become. Because ultimately, he flits in and out of games at the moment. Listen, that's perennially been the issue with wingers over the years. Even the great Brian Laudrup occasionally had games where he dipped in and out of in terms of form because of the very nature of the position. And that was on someone who was at an absolute elite level. But Scott Wright has got a bit to go, to say the least, to get up to the kind of standards that you're going to require to be a Rangers player week in, week out. I think he's got talent, but it's going to take a little bit of time, I think, for him to get to that kind of level. So I think Fashion Sakala needs an opportunity. We saw with a goal for his international side that he is a man with real quality. We saw that from his level of goal that he grabbed last season in the Belgian top flight, which we know is a really good level. I just think he needs a chance to actually settle down and bed into a Rangers team. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that first half against Motherwell, Sakala looked really good. You know, he's obviously not going to link the play quite the same as Morelos, but I'd like to see them together. You have to presume that Roof probably won't start, given he's played in the international break, and as I say, was playing in Honduras, I think 2 days ago now. And Sakala, that Motherwell first half I thought was really good. He's not going to turn and receive as much as Morelos, but I think increasingly you see that he can do that in game. Stuart's there saying who can't, Morelos, right? Yeah, but I tend to agree with you, Jonny, on Wright, that he it's that final product argument, and I think when he comes into games, he's looked really good, but when he plays from the start, I do think he lacks that final product, and that was on show against Hibs as well, and he had a couple of opportunities. But that'll come. Ryan Kent struggled with that at the start of his Rangers career as well, really numbers-wise up until last season. So yeah, for me, Sakala, and the thing is with Sakala, you see with his goal against Motherwell, he is a bit of a poacher as well. He wants goals, and I think you need that. I think his energy without the ball is underrated because of the pressures he made against Motherwell. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were impressive in comparison to the front three the week before. So it's important to remember where Rangers looked weak, often without the ball, often in transition. If you're playing at home against a team who have the threat of someone like John Souttar as a distributor, then you have potentially, Woods, Byrne and Mackay in that front three with an excellent hold-up player. Like Liam Boyce, I would like some more protection from the front than has been there in recent weeks, and for me, Sakala gives you that.
Just on Scott Wright, there is one element of his play I think is really, really top notch that stands out, and it's his ability to take the ball with back to goal and turn and drive forwards. And I wonder, with Beningame so important to Hearts, if that element of his play might be important if he was to start in taking Beningame out. Because he is very, very good in terms of his central positioning, in terms of discipline, in terms of making those challenges. I know you did your piece where you looked at him and scouted him as a potential signing for Rangers, and you were very, very impressed by what he's got to offer. How do you nix his qualities?
Good question. I mean, I think if you look at it with Hearts playing that 3-4-3, he'd want to occupy the back three with Rangers front three staying high, which you know they'll do. And I guess it's a battle between whether the Rangers fullbacks are able to push back Hearts wingbacks and force them into a back five, which then makes life a little bit easier for the defence, and then means that presumably one of Woodburn or Mackay or Gary Mackay-Stevens has to drop into three in the middle. But I think if you can, it's always interesting in these games where you have a differing systems, and obviously Hibs could kind of slide to a number of different shapes in game, but obviously that's a little bit of maybe an old-fashioned technique to judge teams. But for me, yeah, I agree with you, right? And he's direct, and this is why probably when he develops that end product, he will be such a good player, because I think what Kent frustrates a lot of people with is his ability is so elite. But sometimes he just does seem to enjoy going past a player again and scoring a goal. I remember the 4-1 game against Celtic. If Kent was more obsessed about scoring, shall we say, he could have scored 2 or 3 in that game. But he seems to just enjoy. It's almost like Kamara, who just wants to play possession football at times. So for me, yeah, that's a good shout. But also, if Morelos plays that deep role and Hadji's allowed to float in between wherever the space is, and Sakala stretches the pitch, I guess if you want Wright to come short, then maybe you haven't got quite that same threat to stretch the pitch. It all depends how aggressive Hearts are as well. I don't envision that Robbie Nielsen's going to come in and sit in like a Motherwell. I think it'll be far more like Hibs, where they'll try and take the game to Rangers to be confident, and as you've said, because of the record, rightly so. And I think because of that, you want to have the ability to always stretch the pitch. Just start Hearts out 10 yards deeper. Both Wright and Sakala have been really good without the ball counter pressing. So one of those definitely has to be in the team if Kent isn't. And who knows, maybe Kent will have recovered quickly, but it seems unlikely to be thrust straight back in, having not played before the international break.
Okay, got a message here from Graham Hanna. Good morning, lads. Good morning, Graham. Ibrox will be alive tomorrow with a welcome return and rivalry of opposition fans. I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
But moving on, and you did mention Morelos in your previous comments there. And Graham says a fresh Morelos is the key man tomorrow and can be a catalyst for a pivotal win. Alfredo Morelos tends to like these kind of games, doesn't he? And presumably it will be the kind of game that Alfredo Morelos has succeeded in the past. You know, it's one of those, there's going to be a great atmosphere. Yeah. It's going to be bouncing. I think everyone's aware that Hearts are probably a good standard of opposition by SPFL qualities in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is this a match where you tip, like Graham, Alfredo to come alive?
Of course. I mean, the thing is with Alfredo is he always can come alive. And as we've spoken about before, it's that frustration that at times this season he hasn't. I think if you look at his last performance before the international break, Jonny, against Hibs, that was a Morelos you want, as we touched upon at the time, with the ability to, I think he received 40-ish passes, received the ball 40 times, made 46 passes, but then also popped up with a winner in a McCoist-esque drop of the shoulder to get in behind the defender. And that's him at his best, and it's about merging those two qualities so that he still retains the threat of Alfredo Morelos up top. I spoke about it with the guys from Heart and Hand on the Tactics Talk podcast about whether that aggressive element of Morelos' game has been intentionally negated because of obviously the disciplinary issues, and whether he, because of the reputation that he thus earned, he wasn't able to mix it as physically as he was in the past. I think if you think back to that 2-1 win in Gerrard's first season, where Morelos scored from, I think it was the free kick, Goldson scored the other goal. That was kind of peak Morelos' aggression in the way he managed to isolate himself with defenders and score. And I'd just like to see that. Not, his overall play has improved the team so much and has evolved with the team. But it's so important that he doesn't lose those attributes that are probably his best. If he goes to that, if he goes to play at a higher level, that's, I guess, what he'll be able to bring. So absolutely, especially not being in the international setup, you can guarantee that Morelos will be raring to go. He also scored a fantastic left foot goal in the open training I'd seen yesterday, which was a nice little touch. on Rangers Instagram story. So total agreement with Graham. I think the atmosphere will be better because of the ding dong between the two sets of fans. And Morelos also loves scoring against the Edinburgh clubs and in these games as well. So we can hopefully guarantee that we'll be on it from the start, and he won't require some spark in game to really get him going, as has perhaps been the case in a few recent games.
I've also got a question from Callum Milligan. He says, do you think Gerrard needs to rotate his squad to give some players playing time, Joshua? I mean, it's a difficult one because the volume of games that Rangers play over the course of a season, given their involvement to the latter stages, presumably, of the Cups, of the Europa League, of a pretty intense Premiership campaign, if you compare it to other leagues around Europe, there's a lot of games. Mm-hmm. Rangers also have another element at play here, which is they now are tracking Zone 7 data. So they have this cutting-edge AI company who's telling them when players might be susceptible to injury based on big data. So there's lots of elements going on. There's the technical element, there's a sports science element, there's a rest element, and then there's quality of play and general form and all these other things going into it. But the modern footballer, going forward increasingly, are they going to be playing 55, 60 games a season? I'm not sure,
Yeah, and that's what Gerrard said about Tavernier, about, maximising his performances but minimising the amount of them with Patterson. You see it with Davies as well, who, you can guarantee he won't start tomorrow, presumably after 2 international games. Is it important to rotate? I think, of course, it's important to rotate, but it's also probably who Gerrard trusts. You look at, for example, him throwing Juninho Bacuna in away, and we've not even discussed him, and I think he could conceivably play tomorrow as well. There's a lot of excitement around him, and rightly so, and that's a positive because the noises seem to suggest that the coaching staff are happy with him so far, and he's at an age where he's very mouldable still, I'd imagine, and working with Mick Beale will only improve him. He also has those action man hips, ability to twist and turn and attack from deep. I thought he looked very good in the little cameos coming off the bench. So, yeah, I agree with Callum, but I think tomorrow is just about the best team. What's the best team that Gerrard has available? Bromby, I think, then will take care of itself. I think almost in European games, it's easier to rotate because the roles are so defined. It's easier to maybe put an Arfield into a game like that if it's going to be more end to end. If the intensity and the chance creations maybe going to come more in transition, maybe it won't. But tomorrow, I think will be as you say, the most difficult probably game of the season so far. Maybe aside from the Old Firm, but I think given the level of performance Rangers have displayed since then, given the level of performance Hearts have displayed, equally Hearts. I watched a lot of Hearts last season and in the Championship, and they were terrible. They're a much different side now. Playing against them, I remember covering a game where they got beat 3-2 by Queen of the South at home, probably only like 5 or 6 months ago, and there was protests outside. The player recruitment seems to have changed a lot for them, and Nielsen's obviously done a really good job to maintain the steady ship and lead them to where they are at the moment in the Scottish Premiership. But everyone knows from a Rangers perspective, if Rangers hit their level to win this game, that's the challenge for Rangers as it has been all season. Can you go and beat the opposition and not beat yourself by starting slowly or not having that tempo? I really want to see a good intensity in terms of pressure numbers off the ball, a good aggression when possession turns over, not allowing Hearts to get into a rhythm of the game, and not allowing the likes of Suter to get going from the back, because he has very good distribution, and as you say, the midfield is really strong as well.
The final question now, Joshua, before we go. Gordon Watson, hi guys. Gordon from Adelaide, looking forward to the game tomorrow. What do you think of the response of our supporters on the return of Andy Halliday to Ibrox? I think obviously Halliday didn't ultimately get to be part of a Premier League Premiership winning side, but there's no doubt I think he still maintains a lot of respect from the Rangers fans. I'm sure he'll get an unbelievable reception, Joshua. I think people recognise that he was a great servant to the club during a difficult period and was helpful, I would imagine, in setting the standards for the players that did go on to win 55 in the future after he left.
And Steven Gerrard said as much, Jonny, didn't he, after the win over St Mirren? The first person he name-checked from previous squads was Andy Halliday. And I mean, I can't think why he wouldn't get a good response. I think the only annoyance ever with Halliday was that he wasn't at the level of player required to take Rangers forwards. But I think with the skill set he had, you'll be justifiably very proud of his Rangers career. And I can't see a reason why he wouldn't be, applauded back on and given a good reception. Ultimately, the day obviously isn't about Andy Halliday, but he seems to be still maintaining a good reputation. And yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, if he was good enough for Gerrard to keep around at the club for 2 seasons, in terms of standard setting in regards to what it means to play for the club, he was trusted in a lot of games. He was a backup left back. He also played in big games. I think it was Ufa away. He ended up being the sole single pivot with 9 men. Also played in other European fixtures. So yeah, I see no reason why he won't be welcomed warmly, but obviously won't be nearly the focus of the day.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to call it a day there. Remember, guys, we also have a website, therangersreview.co.uk. You can come on. We have some tremendous analytics content, some tremendous opinion pieces. We've got loads and loads of different types of things on there, and it's only £1 a month to subscribe at the moment. It's a special offer for your first 2 months. So please go on and sign up, support the journalism that we're doing. Also, we have a YouTube channel where this goes out immediately. You'll get a notification letting you know that we're going live at any time. We don't just do these 9:30 ones. We also do breaking news updates on video and previews. So if you want to be part of what we do, if you want to be on asking questions, if you want to get involved, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's under the Rangers Review on YouTube, and you will get those notifications. And it helps us as well, so we'd be very appreciative. Well, that's all from us today. We look forward to this game, obviously, at the weekend. Until next time, thank you for watching.